Hello and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. This is episode 31. It's Wednesday, March 26th, I believe. It's been a little bit of a slow week in the world of combat sports. Not a lot of huge news going on. We've got some good fights this weekend, and we've got some more weekday fights before we get to this weekend. So we're going to talk about that today and whatever news has been going on. Because there has been some, but just nothing too major that demands like a big talking point. So we'll get into that. And so I'm doing an episode today, and then I'll do another episode on Friday where I'll talk about the shows that we have Thursday and Friday, as well as previewing the very busy Saturday. I think that there's like 5 events or something on Saturday, and there was meant to be another one because the KSI Dylan Dennis fight got canceled. So, we'll have a lot to talk about on Friday evening when we reconvene. But for now, we're going to talk about BKFC 70 back at the Hard Rock. They always have good shows there. It's headlined by Luis Palomino, Howard Davis. Really won't have much to say about that. And then we've also got in Matchroom in Altrincham, which I think is close to Manchester. You have the professional debut of Pat Brown, where he's going to headline for his first fight, so that should be interesting. I'm really looking forward to that. He's very hyped up over the pond. So let's kick things off with talking about BKFC. So I think it's a 12-fight card in total. It's headlined by Luis Palomino and Howard Davis. I know that Palomino, I believe, he's a former champion, and to be honest, I thought this was for the belt for a second. And then I just checked. I'm like, oh, it's not. It's just another fight at lightweight. It's just odd because I feel like there's really not been a lot of premier BKFC events. And I know that BKFC is not that big. They don't have a lot of big events, but this is their first numbered event of the year. You had Knucklemania. They had a card at Mohegan Sun, but this is the first BKFC numbered event. The BKFC 69 was in December. But they're about to go on a good run. They're at Love 70 this week, as well as another card on Saturday, a smaller card in Manchester. And I believe that's actually at the same venue as the Pat Brown fight, just a day later, so that should be interesting. And then next week, you've got them back in Dubai for their doubleheader, which will be 71 and 72. And then April 18th, they have a card in Omaha, I believe. And April 26th, they have a big card in Italy, which I think is 73, but I could be wrong. I know that one is a DAZN exclusive, if I'm right. But, this card should be pretty good. The co-main event, you have the return of Leonardo Perdomo, who's a very fun heavyweight. He's in there with Steve Herelius. Perdomo is 6-0, and I don't know how many of those are knockouts, but I'm guessing it's a lot. But I'm really excited to see him. The main event should be good. And then you've just got a few other fights on the card. Like BKFC, you don't really need to know the guys to know that you're going to enjoy the fights. And I can look at this and I don't really know a lot of the fighters outside of the top 2 fights, but I just know it's going to be a good one. So we'll talk about that a lot more once we've already seen it, and I'll give you my thoughts on it, but I'm looking forward to it. BKFC is known to do really good events at the Hard Rock. They go there like 4 times a year or something like that, so I'm really looking forward to this. It'll be a Thursday night show. It'll be a good Thursday night show, so yeah, I'm really excited. That one's tomorrow. And then on Friday, we'll have a Matchroom show in Altrincham, like I just mentioned, headlined by Pat Brown. He'll be in there with Federico Javier Grandon, who's 7-4-2. He's actually lost his last 4 fights. So before then, I guess he was 7-0-2. And, then he got stopped twice, one of which was the first time was by Yamil Alberto Peralta, who, if you don't know, just fought to a draw with Ryan Rozicki for the WBC interim cruiserweight title. So that's actually not the worst loss to have. But since then, he's lost to some guys that, not bad fighters. They all have good records, 8-1, 4-0, 14-2, but, he's not necessarily a super quality opponent. But for a professional debut, I see nothing wrong with this, I don't think. And if I'm correct, this fight will be at cruiserweight. I don't know if it's a cruiserweight or heavyweight. They haven't really said. I think Pat Brown's a cruiserweight. He doesn't look like he's overly big, but he looks like he can definitely go up to heavyweight when the time comes. But I'm looking forward to it. But I'm also worried that they're putting a little bit too much pressure on this kid. He seems to be really cool and calm and collected and have that potential to be a star. But, they're putting a lot of pressure on his back. He's going to headline in his first fight, and they're saying, oh, he's the next big thing in the UK, in the world. So we're going to see how good he is. And, it's just a pro debut. I don't know how good you can look, but, I'm just worried that there could be a lot on his shoulders. I have no doubt he'll win, probably by stoppage, but I'm still looking forward to seeing his first fight. Co-main event will be Cameron Vong versus Jordan Flynn. It seems like this fight is finally going to happen. If you don't know, I think this is actually the 4th time that they've booked this matchup to go down. And, I'm excited for it. Cameron Vaughn had a very tough fight last time with Gavin Gwynn. A lot of people thought that he lost that one and wants him to do an immediate rematch. The plan is he fights Jordan Flynn. He gets back him. He gets, back a win, and then he goes into the rematch with Gavin Gwynn, which I have no problems with. And, even taking a step back from Gavin Gwynn, Jordan Flynn is still a very tough fight. I think Vaughn will probably win, but this is still a very competitive fight. Jordan Flynn himself is 11-0-1. This fighting in a 10-rounder. I think it's Flynn's first 10-rounder. Cameron Vaughn has gone 10 rounds twice. Actually, excuse me, it's Flynn's second 10-rounder. He had to draw with Kane Baker after he already beat Kane Baker, but it was a close one, I guess. But yeah, they'll fight for the WBO European Lightweight Championship, which is actually a pretty good title on the line there. So yeah, I'm excited to see that fight. They've got a really good rivalry. They've literally been trying to get them to fight for a year and a half now, I think. It's crazy. But yeah, this should be a good one. Also on the card, you have Reece Farnhill versus Mark Dickinson. This is Dickinson. He's still on his return from losing in the quarterfinals of the prize fighter matchroom did in Japan, and then they never carried on with it for whatever reason. But that'll be for the English 168 championship. As for who wins, I really wasn't too impressed with Mark Dickinson. They definitely threw him into the wolves fairly early there with Kazuto Takesako. And it was a fight that, he looked okay in, but he definitely didn't win and kind of went how everybody expected it to go. I don't know if Farnhill has ever fought someone as good as Dickinson before. I think this will be a pretty evenly matched fight, but I'm going to pick I'm going to pick Farnhill in this one. I could be wrong. Dickinson is the home fighter, but and I think that Dickinson may be the favor here, and if so, I'll go with the upset. Connor Toodsbury returns. I'm very excited to see him. He had his pro debut. Was that on the Manchester card? Yeah, that was on the Jack Catter Arno Barboza undercard. A very heavy-hitting 175-pounder. I'm really excited to see his career progress. I can't wait for that one. And then you have William Crawla returning, another big puncher. 7-0 with 6 knockouts. He also fought on that card and got himself a first-round knockout. I think he's on the main card. And then you have Taylor Bevan, who will make his third appearance in the ring. Another very good prospect and another very heavy hitter. And then you have Liam Taylor on this as well. Oh, wait, I just realized this is Liam Taylor who's supposed to fight Kona Walker, no? Why is he fighting in a 6-rounder? Anyways, he'll be in a 6-rounder for whatever reason. I did see the other day, and we'll talk about Galalia fight a little bit later, but that card that we know that they're planning for June, that Kona Walker, Liam Taylor could be on it. I think it makes perfect sense to put him on that card. But I'm just a little bit surprised. I'm like, okay, I didn't even notice that Liam Taylor was on this card. Why is he in a 6-rounder before he goes into a 12-rounder with Kona Walker in 3 months? I think this is literally just to, get his ring rust off or get him going. I don't know when the last time he fought was. Let me check. His last appearance to the ring was in March of 2024. So he hasn't fought in over a year, which is not great. I don't really know how he was able to get a mandatory position with the BBFC when his last 10-rounder was in 2022, October 2022. So it's been 2.5 years since he had a 10-rounder, and he's only fought twice in that time, and they've both been 8-rounders. And now he's going to have a 6-rounder. So not really what you want to see for a British title-level talent. And it's not even like they're giving Kona Walker an easy touch for his first defense. This was ordered. Just a very odd one. But whatever. There should be a pretty good undercard there. I'm really excited that we're going to get to see, Matchroom's more exciting prospects on this card. Because, I don't know, I feel like a lot of the British prospects can be quite boring with the school of boxing there. But these ones all go for the punch and they get the knockout. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that before the bell. It should be a pretty good night of fights. Just a little Friday afternoon fight action. So I'm looking forward to it. Okay, let's talk about some news, which we've got a decent bit here. The first thing we're going to talk about is the WBO have officially ordered Sebastian Fundora versus Xander Zayas. And they've also reiterated that Fundora will have no in-between bouts. He must fight Zayas. Samson Lukowicz says that he thinks that July or August that's where that fight will take place. I'm not really upset at that time frame at all. Zayas just had himself a fight last month at MSG, and Fundora just had a fight this weekend, so I totally expect them to want a few months off, even though both of them came out of the fights pretty unscathed. A summer fight is exactly what I wanted. Sure, I would have liked June, but I have no issues with July and maybe even August. This is a really good fight, I think. Xander Zayas has been looking for his world title shot, and he's in a division where no matter what way you go about it, it's going to be a tough one. And I think that him and Fundora, that's two of the best fighters in the division. And that should be a really awesome fight. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope they can get a deal done because they both seem like two of the most humble and like down to earth, nice guys in the sport. And I know that the promoters are not. I know that Top Rank and PBC. When was the last time that Top Rank and PBC got a big fight going? Like really? It's been a while. That's not Riyadh season. This fight may have to go on Riyadh season, which PBC doesn't really work well with Riyadh season. So I don't know. But I'm just really worried that promoters and politics will get in the way of this fight happening because it really is a great one. And if Fundora is not unifying or, fighting his WBC mandatory and Virgil Ortiz, I have no issues with Xander Zayas getting that fight at all. I would love to see this happen. Yeah. We'll see if it actually does, but it seems positive as of right now. This one is a little bit frustrating. Derek Chisora is the mandatory challenger for Daniel Dubois. So Frank Warren said that they are looking to do a big event with Daniel Dubois this summer at Wembley Stadium. So it seems like they're not moving on that. If they're going to do Wembley, I think it should be with Alexander Usyk. That's the only way. I don't think that fight should be at Wembley. I don't think that it's that big. But if they're going to do Wembley, do a big one. Now, the Chisora, and then he mentions right after the Chisora is the mandatory challenger. And we know that when Chisora fought Volin, it was for they were fighting for the number 2 spot. And we know that Bacoli and Ajagba were supposed to fight for the number 1 spot, but that fight is still happening, but it's no longer an IBF eliminator, so I guess that Chisora will just become the mandatory challenger. I don't really know what kind of logic that is, but anyways, I really hope that that's not what they're planning. We know that Derek Chisora, I would love to see him. I think most people would see him fight someone like Dillian White or Francis Ngannou or Deontay Wilder. That B tier of heavyweights. That would still be very good competitive fights because Chisora's good. He's been on a good run in the B tier. He shouldn't be up in the A tier, let alone the S tier. And he said Anthony Joshua, which would just be a big fight for Britain and one that he would still lose. Or he wants Daniel Dubois or even Alexander Usyk. And I'm like, dude, do not even call out world champions right now. Like, you're good. You've been on a good run at the end of your career. But come on, let's not jump the shark here. I really hope that they're not doing Dubois Chisora. I can see a world where it happens just because they want to make Chisora's 50th fight something special, and I would like to see it happen in Africa, but they may say you want to do a stadium fight here in the UK, and he'll be like, sure, world title fight. And it's one that Dubois blows him out of the water in 3 rounds, I think. It's just I just think that fight is so pointless. It's so stupid, and I don't want to see Chisora get in there with someone that can hurt him. We know everybody's been saying for years, like, oh man, Chisora's old, and now we're about to send him in with the Wolves. Like, literally, Daniel Dubois is maybe the biggest puncher the heavyweight division has right now, honestly. It's not a good idea in the slightest to think we should throw him in with Derek Chisora. That's just such a mismatch. I really hope that's just whatever. This is a big story. Cain Velasquez has been sentenced to 5 years in prison. Now, this isn't really too related to something that's actually going on in boxing or MMA, but Cain Velasquez is a former UFC champion. I figure we should talk about it. It's a huge story that's been going on. As for my thoughts on it, again, I'm not anybody who's going to talk about news like this usually. And I think that what Cain Velasquez, how he handled this situation is not the best. But I can see why he did it, and I don't really blame him. So if you don't know, his son, I believe, was 4 years old at the time. And I don't know what his connection to this other guy was. But this another guy was accused of sexually molesting Cain Velasquez's son. And I don't know in what way, I don't know what relation he had to the kid. But anyways, Cain he found him on the streeter, I guess, and he shot at his car when he had his mother and stepfather in the car. I believe that he injured the stepfather in the arm. And Cain, and this is a story that's been going on, but he just got the sentence. He's going to go to prison for 5 years. When the prosecutor was looking to do 30 to life. And, I mean, you're going to have to pay the price. He said he regrets it. The judge apparently had tears in his eyes giving out the sentence because, I mean, Cain was just doing what, honestly, any parent would want to do in that situation. I don't think that every parent would and probably should go after and try and, kill the person who did it, but you can't blame him for feeling that way. I mean, that's your family. That's your son. So, it's awful. But I think that Cain Velasquez has seemed to have come to peace with it. He understands, I crossed the line. I know that the other guy he has his sentencing in June. I believe that's when he goes to court. And I hope that he gets a much longer sentence. But, that's all I have to say on it. it's a nightmare for Kane and his whole family, and hopefully he's out in less than 5 years. If I don't know, he can get out on good behavior or something. I don't really know how it works, but yeah, it's just a crazy story, man. It really is, and it's so sad. But anyways, moving on from that, PBC is planning to do a doubleheader with Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo May 31st in Las Vegas. May 31st is my birthday, actually. So I am very happy. I've waited for my birthday to fall on a Saturday so we can get a big fight going, and I'm really happy with this one. The issue, and this is the issue with boxing, is that we have Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo, two guys that are at 168 right now because we know that's where Maul is going to end up, on the same card, and they're not fighting each other. We saw with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. We're going to see it with Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, and to that effect, Teofimo Lopez as well. We've got the big names on the same card not fighting each other, and it's to build up to a bigger fight later this year. And although the reports haven't said, Plant and Charlo are going to fight later this year, but they've been circling each other for a long time. And I do want to see Caleb Plant and Edgar Berlanga. If they can get it done for this date, I'd love that. But I also know that that's not going to happen and that Berlanga is not going to make it that easy. And PBC probably don't want to do a deal with Edgar Berlanga. They probably want to keep all their stuff in-house, do Plant and Charlo, fight some not bad names, but guys like Cordell Booker, which is a pretty bad name for where Sebastian Fundora is, get wins, and then go into a fight with each other. Now, I think that Charlo wanting another tune-up is not that bad. He had a tune-up with Jose Benavidez, but even that was a year and a half ago, so he'll probably need another one, and I don't blame him for wanting one. Caleb Plant, I don't think that he needs a tune-up. I mean, he just had a return fight with Trevor McCumbee, which was a good, tough fight that he won, and I think that he's ready to get in there with Edgar Berlanga, people like that. So, hey, if we can do Plant Berlanga on May 31st, there should be zero reason why Berlanga doesn't do that fight. Yeah, he did just fight like 2 weeks ago, but that was also a first-round knockout. He should totally be ready, or 1 week ago, excuse me. He should totally be ready to return in 2 months. So we'll see what happens. I doubt it'll be Plant Berlanga, and I would much rather just have Plant Charlo on this date, but it is what it is. Tom Aspinall says he'll fight for the main title next, the actual UFC world title, and he's confident it will be with Jon Jones. Colby Covington said that Jon Jones wants $50 million for the fight. And that's what the holdup is. And we know that Jon Jones has been asking for a lot of money. $50 million is crazy. I don't know if UFC's ever paid someone that much money for a fight. Maybe hold the Conor McGregor-Floyd Mayweather situation, but that wasn't really them. And UFC is notoriously bad with paying their fighters, and even the top guys like Jon Jones don't get paid astronomical amounts of money. $50 million is a lot. And I know that Dana White's got the money to pay him. And to be honest, I think that they should just pay him. I don't think that he deserves to fight $50 million, especially compared to what Tom Aspinall will probably make, which is like maybe $2, maybe $3 million, but probably not even that. I don't know. It is definitely a cry for attention and more money, and I don't love Jon Jones, the route that he's decided to take here, but he thinks that he's being undervalued, or at least he should be overvalued, and he's going to fight for it. Tom Aspinall has done very well in this situation. He's been on a pretty good press run. He held up the duck at UFC London, which was really funny. And, he's just saying that, look, I've talked to Hunter. I know that I'm going to fight for the title next. Whether that's with Jon Jones or not, I'm the one who will fight for it next. And he feels like he's confident that it will be Jon Jones. And I think that the UFC they're all remaining optimistic that it will be him, but I just really don't know what these Jon Jones demands. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what the future holds, and I just hope that Tom Aspinall gets to fight for the heavyweight title. Jon Jones. Now, what's interesting here is that PFL chairman, I think, Don Davis, he put out a tweet and said, look, if Jon Jones wants a $50 million fight, we've got one waiting for him with Francis Ngannou. And he didn't just say on PFL, he said PFL and UFC. We know that they want to do this fight with them. We know they want to do a PFL-UFC crossover, and I would really like to see that happen. I think Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou is a fantastic fight. I think UFC and PFL should work together. But I also know that Dana White's not going to go for that. What I do see here, and the reason why I mention it, is that I can see Jon Jones being like, maybe I may just leave UFC then. Maybe I'll retire and then I'll go sign with PFL. I don't know if he can do that, but I don't know what his deal looks like. He's good buds with Dana. So I can very much see a world where Jon Jones goes for the bigger paycheck and fights Ngannou, or just retires, or waits Alex Pereira, or maybe fights Aspinall, but I don't know. This whole situation has gone on way too long, and it's so exhausting. Just give us the damn fight, please. Come on. Okay, what else we got? Uh, Speaking of MMA, Alexander Usyk said, again, very similar to how he mentioned, yeah, I want to fight Daniel Dubois next, and then, maybe we'll do an Alex Pereira boxing match. This time he said that the priority is Daniel Dubois. So, again, we're not thinking about Parker right now. We're just thinking about Dubois, which I kind of don't like for Parker. We'll talk about Parker in a second. But that he said maybe I'll fight Jake Paul in MMA, which is the most random thing ever, especially when I think Jake and Usyk are, they're not like friends, but I think that they're cool. And it's just so out of nowhere that they would fight each other in MMA. But I would watch it. I mean, that'd just be kind of fun. It'd be out of nowhere. It'd be crazy, but whatever. Should be fun. As for Dubois and Parker, that whole situation, I did see that Eddie Hearn said that Anthony Joshua wants to fight Daniel Dubois, he wants to rematch him, and he wants to fight Tyson Fury. But he also mentioned that when asked, he could maybe be open to fighting Joseph Parker for the WBO vacant title. I think that's a pretty good route for Anthony Joshua. It's a fight that he may be the underdog in. He still gets to fight at the top of the game. And he gets another shot at the world title right after that loss. So, and you know what? And Joseph Parker gets a big fight. He gets his world title fight where he may be the favorite, and it gets to be in a big fight. He gets to headline. He gets to be in the pay-per-view. And, I think that'd be a good fight. If Usyk and Dubois run it back, I think Parker should get something special, and I think AJ could be that. So, I don't mind that plan at all, actually. Back to world title news, Keyshawn Davis versus Edwin De Los Santos. We know that there was an offer sent, but now it seems like they're actually in negotiations. I already said I'm really down with this fight. I don't mind it at all. But it looks like that can be June 7th at Madison Square Garden. And I'm really cool with that. I think that that's a good date. It'll be 4 months after Keyshawn's last fight. Back at Madison Square Garden, I don't know why Top Rank just spams the theater. They do so many events there, but it's whatever. I'm excited for this. I hope that it does happen. I think that there's a lot of big fights that we can make at lightweight, and I think that Keyshawn will be in those fights, but he needs to have some defenses first, and this is not like a bum defense. This will be a tough fight. This could be a tougher fight than Baranchuk. Granted, De Los Santos hasn't fought since the Shakur fight, so I don't think that he's worthy of a world title fight. I just like the matchup. So we'll see how it goes, if that actually does transpire and if that goes down. We'll see. Emmanuel Navarrete versus Charlie Suarez has been announced by Top Rank for May 10th in San Diego. Again, another fight that I'm like, man, Navarrete should be unifying. Why is he fighting Charlie Suarez? That is just such a stupid fight. Navarrete is going to blow him out of the water. I really don't like this fight at all. Anyways, co-main event, Raymond Murataya versus Zaur Abdullayev. That's a good one, and that's the IBF interim title. Winner of that will be mandatory for Vasily Lomachenko, or will just get upgraded if he retires. So I'm excited for that. I think Murataya could win that one, and but who knows? He hasn't always looked great. If you remember his fights with Tevin Farmer and even the one before that, it was a little bit, not his best work. So we'll see what happens there. Also on that card, you'll have Giovanni Santillon, who's a pretty top-ranked welterweight. He did have the tough loss to Brian Norman, but since then he's had a win, and he's probably going to get another one here. He is hometown, San Diego. I hope to see him back in another big fight later this year. Okay, what else? Dana White retiring. So Dana White was asked in a post-fight press conference recently. This didn't just happen. I just saw this recently, where they're asked you ever think you're going to find someone to if you're going to step down and find someone to take your place. And he said, he was we'll find out this year. And, I was unsure about what to say, but it's is he really going to step down this year? Because he is stepping into boxing, and I don't know if he's going to step down, but I think that we are going to see a second in command come in that will eventually take over one day, because Dana White is going to start to stretch himself too thin, running a UFC league, a boxing league, he's got other companies going on. He's got Power Slap. It's just a lot. So we'll see what happens with him. I hope he doesn't retire, because he's still great at what he does. But it would be time to start to look for his successor. Terrence Crawford is willing to return to 154 for Undisputed after Canelo to make big history. He's saying that he'd want to go for 4-time Undisputed in different weight classes. I really like this plan. I'm excited for it. I don't think it'll happen. I think Bud may retire, but I can also see Bud just fighting until he can't fight anymore. But he just fights once a year, so it's not I really see him having a whole lot of fights. Part of me feels like Canelo was his last fight. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know if that's the case. He can definitely drop down to 154 after and get himself another good fight, and could probably go undisputed pretty easily as that division will start to unify. It's already got Fundora, and who's got 2 belts. And if the WBA lets Bud keep his belt, which I honestly think that they shouldn't, then it shouldn't be that hard for him at all. But yeah, we'll see what happens. And if he does get to 4 division undisputed, it would just be insane. And I don't know if anybody will beat that record for a long time. Jermell Charlo speaking 154. He said 154 is mine until I'm finished. This is surprising. I thought that Charlo was going to move up to 160. His last fight was at 168 against Canelo, and I don't think he's fought in 154 since 2022. Doesn't have any fight booked at the moment. I'd like to see him come back to 154 and get himself into a big fight, but there's no guarantee there. It's just been so long since he's fought, so I really don't know. Okay, this one's good. Puma Martinez versus Kazuto Ioka 2 has been announced for Japan on May 11th, so this will be a Sunday morning. I'm excited for this one. They had a pretty good fight first time out, and it took a while to get the rematch going. We know it was supposed to happen New Year's Eve and then fell apart at the last second. Hopefully this fight does still happen, and the winner of this can unify with one Bam Rodriguez. As we know, Bam and Puma were discussing. I think this is 2 and 3 in the division, then meet number 1 after this. It was also announced that the WBC interim flyweight world title fight has been agreed between Galal Yafai and Francisco Chihuas Rodriguez. I'm not sure how you say that name, but it's been agreed. Date and venue will be announced shortly. We're hearing that it'll be June in Birmingham. I think June 21st is the date that's been discussed. I'm excited for this. Matchroom is saying that the winner will cement a shot at Kenshiro Taraji's world title. And I would like to see that fight. I think Galal Yafai and Kenshiro Taraji is probably the best fight in the division, and I'd love to see it happen. I'd love for Taraji to stay at 112. He says he already wants to move up to 115, which I don't think is a good idea because he's already one of the smaller guys at 112. I don't think that he should jump up another weight class after only 2 fights. I think he can go for undisputed and fight guys like Galal Yafai in big fights. But this is a good fight. I'm glad that they're going to take the Galal Yafai the world title route, get him a world title at 112, keep him there for a bit, and then move him up. But he's a fantastic fighter, and bright future ahead of him. Okay, Oscar De La Hoya would like to do Virgil Ortiz, Errol Spence at the Dallas Cowboy Stadium. Listen, I really like that plan. Those are 2 guys that are from Texas. Spence has been looking to have a big fight. He's been looking to come back big. If he does return, Ortiz is a big fight for him. That'll get him a world title shot. It's a competitive fight. They're both in the same weight class. I see no reason why you don't do that fight other than Spence or Ortiz wanting a world title shot or wanting to fight someone who's actually actively at the top of their game. But I think that that's a good matchup, and I'm glad that Oscar is interested in it, and I love seeing stadium fights. Callum Simpson versus Ivan Zuko has been announced for June 7th at Oakwell Stadium. This is where Simpson's soccer or football team plays. It'll be the full maximum capacity. Thankfully, last time it was just like one of the 4 wings, and it was really weird, or 4 decks, I should say. But, I think they'll do a full 25K there. Simpson is a huge ticket seller. And yeah, I'm excited for this. I think this should be a competitive fight. 12 rounds for the European title, both undefeated. And after this, I want to see Simpson hop into some top guys at, world level over here. Fight someone like Steven Nelson, Lester Martinez. There's some good names that are about Simpson's level that I'd like to see him tested against. Okay, MVP has announced some more women's signings, and these are pretty crazy. So I thought that for their Netflix card on July 11th, they'd do similar to what they did with the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul card, where they just kind of took people from all over, not just within house at MVP. It seems like they're signing those people. We already know they got Amanda Serrano, they got Shadeja Green, they've got 1 or 2 other female prospects, and they, of course, have most recently signed Alicia Baumgartner. They have now signed another unified champion in Dina Thorsland, who is unified at 118 pounds. Hopefully, we know that she'll probably be on this card now, and hopefully they have her in this card against Shernika Johnson, who just fought over the weekend. Called for a unification with her. I'd love to see that. It's the best fight in the division, probably. They also signed Ramla Ali, who just had a world title shot recently, and it seems like she's been dropped from Matchroom. I think that's a really good signing. Nat No Love Dove, she's fought on their cards before. She trains with Juana Walton. I think that's a pretty good signing, another amateur. And then Naomi Valle, who I'm not too familiar with, but she's 14-0 with 9 KO, so I'm assuming that she'll probably be moving towards world title level soon. She's from Costa Rica. But yeah, MVP has been signing a lot more fighters lately, and they should have been, I feel, because they've had a pretty small stable over the years, and it seems like they're bulking it up, and they're going to do some big things this year. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do. Connor Wallace will be back out May 13th. Tasman Fighters and Matchroom fighter, and he will be the co-main event for Jai Opetaya's mandatory or voluntary defense on May 13th in Australia. I think this is a really good time for him to return. As for who he fights, I don't know who it'll be, but I'd like it to be a step up. I don't think that he's been fighting the best competition recently. Honestly, if they can get a fight with Michael Eifert for like an interim or mandatory like eliminator status with the IBF, we know Eifert is already the mandatory for Dimitri Bivol's IBF light heavyweight title. I would really like to see that fight. I think that's a fantastic fight. If not, I want to see Wallace in with someone else that's more of a challenge because I feel like he's been bum bashing recently. But, we'll see who he's in with. Sam Noakes has been added to the Anthony Kakache Lee Wood card. That fight card is amazing. I mean, not only is the main event awesome and the atmosphere going to be amazing with Belfast and not Leeds, Nottingham. That's where he's from. Yeah, I think that the atmosphere is already going to be crazy. The main event will be incredible. And then on the card, you have Ezra Taylor versus Troy Jones, Owen Cooper versus Chris Congo, Liam Davies versus Kurt Walker, and Sam Noakes. We don't know who he'll be fighting yet, but he's honestly maybe even a top 10 lightweight. He's pretty close to a world title crack. He's up there. He's already the European champion. I know that he's been ordered to defend either European or the British against someone. I'm guessing that'll likely fall on this bill, but yeah, I'm excited. Speaking of somebody also on Queensberry, I'll be fighting soon. Nelson Hisa will not be a Moses Thomas opponent. We know that Hisa was signed to Queensberry, but this is now his second fight in the past few months that hasn't been with them since he got signed. He'll be fighting Edwin Castillo in Germany on April 12th, so he will not be Moses Thomas' opponent on May 24th. We know that'll be announced, I think, either this week or next week, but I just hope they announce it soon. I'm just really dying to see Moses back in the ring, and I thought this would have been a perfect fight for them to do. But I don't know why they signed Hisa and then just have been shipping him out to other cards and not promoting him. It's really weird. I wanted to mention that Tom Loeffler of 360 Boxing Promotions, on his box rec I saw, and it's not just his, it's everyone that's involved. He's got cards planned May 17th and June 21st, both Saturdays where they're going to have stiff competition, but May 17th, return of Omar Trinidad and Mizuki Hiruta, who's a world champion, as well as Sergey Bochuk, who's, top of the division. Now, I'm really curious to see who Boachuk is in with. As like I said, he's a top fighter. He's right on the verge of a world title. I don't know who this would be against. I don't even know if he'd be main event with Trinidad on that bill, but I hope so. I'm excited to see that card. It should be a really good one. And then June 21st, we'll see Callum Walsh and Kane Sandoval return back as well. So I like that they're kind of stacking up their talent, and they're putting on really good cards recently, monthly good cards. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what they do this year. They've already done pretty well. They've had some good events on UFC Fight Pass. Michaela Mayer offered the rematch to Alicia Baumgardner for this March 29th date, who denied it. We know now probably is because she's working on something with MVP. But yeah, she did not accept the rematch, so instead they went to Sandy Ryan. Now, I don't know how much of this is true. Like, yeah, we were trying to make that fight happen, and how much they really offered, because the Sandy Ryan rematch was just so obvious to make next, and I'm glad that they made it, but I don't really know what the plan was to do Alicia Baumgardner then when you're 3 divisions higher than she is now, but I don't know. Joe Rogan says that Alex Pereira fought with a broken hand and a virus. I wouldn't surprise me as to why Pereira was not throwing. I wouldn't surprise me at all if he had some kind of hand injury, because it was so weird. He was barely throwing a punch at all, and this would make sense as to why. Now, the virus, I have no idea, and I don't want to make excuses for him, and Joe Rogan's the one who's making excuses for him. Poatan didn't say anything, because that doesn't surprise me at all. He's the guy that would not tell you anything about his injury, even afterwards. So I'm excited to see what Pereira and Ankalaev do next. I hope that they rematch, and I hope Pereira's in a lot better health. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he was not at his best, because he didn't look his best in the ring or in the cage. PFL Paris will be May 24th. They haven't announced what their weight divisions will be on that. They may have already announced the weight divisions, and you can deduce from there. But I assume that this will be 2 of their other divisions. And it's weird because they have an event with Paul Hughes on May 10th. So I'm guessing that they are going to do the same 4 weight classes that they do. They'll do 4 champions in each in PFL Europe, and usually they do an event like every quarter. I think last year was like March, June, September, and December, so every quarter. But I actually like this more in a way. Even though it's 2 weeks apart, they're doing events in Europe after not doing any for a few months, which is weird, but I also like it because this way, all the divisions end up on the same page where they're going to fight on the same card in the semifinals in like August or September, and then again in December. They'll all be on the same card from there, so they'll all be fighting on the pretty much the same pace. Whereas before, you had the people from March fighting on the September card and the people from June fighting on the September card. So they're way more active. And they also had to wait less time. So, I think this makes sense in a way. UFC news. Blanchfield versus Barber has been booked for the UFC Vegas 106 main event on May 31st. I think this is a pretty good matchup. It could honestly be a title eliminator. I think this is what division is this? I think this is no, I'm not going to say anything until I check. But I think this is a good fight. We know Blanchfield is coming off the win against Namajunas, and I think that her and Barber, is it Amanda? What's her name? Erin Blanchfield. I don't know why I thought it was Amanda versus Macy Barber. Yes, and this will be a flyweight. So champion there, of course, is Valentina Shevchenko. I hope that Valentina, after her next fight against Farhat, I hope that she gets in with Zhang Weili who goes for double champ status, or at least 2 division status. And I would like to see those pair fight, and maybe the winner of this fights one more time to get the title shot. But this should be a pretty good one. It is, like I said, this is on my birthday, and I'm like, the UFC, they did book an Apex event on my birthday, which I don't really care about, but it is like, I would have much rather had like UFC 316 a week earlier, but it's whatever. This should be a pretty good fight, I think. I don't know how good the card will be though. Sean Brady is now ranked number 1 at 170, and I mention this because how is Shavkat Rakhmonov not the number 1 welterweight? And it really worries me that they're going to make Shavkat fight another time for an eliminator against Brady instead of just letting him walk into the Bilal fight. Which on one hand, you may want Shavkat to stay active, but I don't think that he should have to reprove his mandatory status. Yeah, Sean Brady looked good and destroyed Leon Edwards, but I don't think that he jumps the whole list to the top. It's just, I don't know. That was a little bit odd to me. But anyways, he's now ranked over Shavkat, which I don't really get. And lastly, Matchroom has co-signed the Olympian Lanier Pero with Box Lab Promotions, the promotion that runs out of Caribe Royale in Orlando, and he'll return April 18th on DAZN. So they have a card April 18th that will be co-promoted by Matchroom now, I guess. And Pero himself is 11-0 with 8 knockouts, really good fighter, scary fighter. Honestly, you've got Lanier Pero and then you've got Daniel Pero, who are both Cuban heavyweights that are with Box Lab, I think. We should get them to fight. I'm just saying, like, Pero versus Pero. But yeah, that'll be a card on April 18th. Is that the one headlined by, you've got Hendry Cedeno and Kevin Haler-Brown, so one of them will be headlining the card. Should be a pretty good one, actually. I'm looking at it. Abel Gonzalez, Gergen Havanesian, Pitufo Diaz. Yeah, so not like an insanely good card, but some good names on it. I'm excited. I like the Caribe Royale cards. But that's all I've got today. Thank you so much for listening. Like I said, I'll be back Friday evening. We'll talk about Pat Brown in his debut. We'll talk about BKFC, and then we'll look ahead to the weekend where we've got William Zepeda, Tevin Farmer 2, Michaela Mayer, Sandy Ryan 2, Brandon Moreno, Steve Ursag, and a whole lot more. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you on Friday. Peace.